Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap here on the channel. Today we're going over the DC Universe original series Swamp Thing, which is currently on episode 5 of its one and only season. This series has really been heating up, and let's see what's happening this week. The episode starts with Avery on the phone with his wife. It seems like a sweet conversation where she's thanking him for bringing Susie into their lives. She keeps hearing something and hangs up the phone to go upstairs and see what's going on. Avery hangs up the phone and we see that he's in some motel with Sheriff Jennifer Beals. Apparently they've resumed their affair. Back home, Maria checks in on Susie and finds her scared in bed. She claims someone was in the room with her, someone angry. She tells her it was the girl from the pictures downstairs, referring to the deceased daughter, Shauna. Maria goes to get something from the hall closet and comes back and Susie's gone. She frantically looks for her and sees water pooling outside the bathroom. She goes in and sees her daughter in the tub. She tells her that she's trying to replace her with Susie just like she did before with Abby. Maria tells her that no, she loves her more than anything. She goes to hug her and we see that it's actually Susie she's hugging, but with whited out eyes. I love how this series mixes genuine horror in with a typical superhero origin story. It's just great. Alec is in the swamp when he finds himself tied by vines. He sees dead bodies floating around him in the water and he screams for it to stop just as he sees someone in a boat coming towards him. He casually asks how the fishing is here in the swamp and Alec tells him he needs to leave, that it's dangerous. The man isn't afraid of him and Alec asks who he is. We cut to Daniel speeding down the highway trying to leave town. He slams on the brakes just as he comes to the city limits sign and he gets out of the car and screams into the night. He asks if he can leave now that he's lived up to his side of the bargain. He reaches his hand past the city limits sign to test it and his arm catches on fire with blue flame. He keeps speaking to himself, saying he brought Abby back to town, his job is done. He reaches into his trunk and we see the Blue Devil mask with glowing eyes. Abby's still researching her sample of Alec when Dr. Woodrow shows up. He questions her on where she found the sample and she tells him that it's classified, and he asks her if its discovery has anything to do with Alec. He tells her he was the only scientist here in Marais and wonders if he had found this evidence first. Abby gets a call from Susie and says she'll be right there. Avery shows up at the swamp bar and tells Liz's father to have her back off the investigation. Liz shows up and tells Avery that bullying her father isn't going to stop her. She asks him where his banker is, not knowing that Avery killed him. He makes up some excuse saying he went on a vacation, and she tells Avery that she's not scared of him and to get away from her father. Avery just smiles and leaves. Dr. Woodrow has someone take him out into the swamp to Alec's lab. He's hunting around for some more samples of what Abby has, and he finds the place trashed, but manages to find a sample, most likely from Alec himself. He puts it under the microscope and sees that it's just the same. Back in the swamp, Alec is still speaking with the man in the boat. He won't tell him who he is, he just says he's someone from a dream. He shows Alec how to touch the trees and sees memories of the past, things the trees have witnessed over the centuries. He tells him that there's danger here, danger for someone he knows, and that something is returning. Alec puts his hand to a tree and vines start crawling up him as he sees a vision of Abby swimming in the river shouting for Shauna. He calls out and suddenly it's all gone, including the man from the boat. Abby arrives to the Sunderland home and Maria answers the door. She tells her that she doesn't want to fight and Maria says that Susie's fine. Abby hears Susie singing and it takes her back to a memory of she and Shauna on the bridge. She goes upstairs to find Susie in Shauna's old bedroom. Susie's all creepy looking and tells Abby that she's surprised she actually came, that when people need her, she never comes. Abby asks to do a quick exam and Susie continues to talk to her, sounding wise beyond her years. She's clearly possessed by Shauna at this point. Abby tells Susie to convince her that she's Shauna, and suddenly the real Shauna is standing right in front of her and the room is doing weird things. She can see Shauna drowning through the window from outside, and she looks back and a snake comes out of her throat. Then all of a sudden she's little Susie again. Abby rushes downstairs and demands to know what Maria's done to Susie, that she's told Susie all these things about her past, and honestly I'm a little confused as to why Abby's still skeptical about everything actually after what she just saw. That just seemed really strange. Abby leaves and Susie comes downstairs and tells Maria that she can't stay this way forever. Tells Maria to come with her to the swamp so they can be together forever. Outside the house, the fortune teller walks up to Abby and tells her that Shauna has come back and possessed the little girl, just as Abby turns and sees Maria driving off with Susie in the car. Meanwhile, out in the woods, a man who claims to know what really happened to Alec the night he was presumed dead threatens the sheriff. He tries to blackmail her and she just kills him in cold blood. She calls in the situation as if it was self-defense. Think Avery's rubbed off on her a little bit. Abby and the fortune teller are driving trying to find Maria and Susie, and she claims that she knew Shauna and that Shauna wouldn't be like this. She wasn't evil. The fortune teller says that the darkness has twisted her soul. Susie leads Maria into the swamp and we see Shauna in the water reaching out her hand. Susie collapses as Maria walks out into the swamp towards Shauna, possibly now not possessed. Abby arrives at the bridge and Susie comes running. She tells her that she thinks Shauna has Maria, and Abby runs out into the swamp and sees Maria walking out in the water. She yells for her, but Maria can't hear her. She's still focused on Shauna. She rushes out after her and tells Maria that she's sorry about Shauna's death, and suddenly Maria snaps out of it and tries to drown Abby. Abby overpowers Maria and swims towards the shore, and Maria tries to go after her, but Shauna pops up out of the water and pulls her under. Abby turns to see Maria gone and tries to find her, going into the water but finding nothing. Alec comes up out of nowhere carrying Maria's body. He heads towards the shore and Abby performs CPR on her. Maria stirs and Abby asks Alec how she knew where she was. He tells her that he saw her in the water under the bridge, and she tells him that's impossible, it was 14 years ago. Alec touches her and suddenly Abby is in the past, watching the events of Shauna's death from a distance. She sees her younger self and Shauna getting out of the car and walking closer to the edge of the bridge. Shauna keeps yelling at Abby to come up on the railing with her, that they have to jump. Abby smiles and says, "You first," and then runs, pushing Shauna off the bridge, obviously thinking there's no harm to it. She watches as Shauna doesn't come up for air and then dives off into the water to help. Shauna comes up for air and is laughing, having pranked Abby, when suddenly she's pulled under. Again, Abby thinks she's just joking, but Shauna gets drugged down under again. Abby goes under the water and sees something pulling Shauna down into the depths. Abby comes out of the past and realizes that something did take Shauna. The police arrive and Alec rushes off. He watches from a distance though as Matt covers her with his coat and tries to comfort her. Sometime later, Liz is leaving the bar and she sees that her tire is slipped. Two masked men come up to her and tell her to stop digging into Avery. Liz takes out one of the men as Daniel comes running. The other man smashes Daniel's head in with a tire iron and then runs off as Daniel hits the ground. At the hospital, Avery arrives looking for Maria. Dr. Woodrow stops him as he's on his way and says that they have to talk. He tells him that the sample that Abby recovered is from a living creature. Woodrow tells Avery that they have to track this thing down, and Avery gives him the number of the best hunter in the business. I kind of wonder who that's going to be. I'm thinking it's probably somebody from the comics. The episode ends there, and with this, we're at the midpoint in the 10-episode series. I say it every week, but this show is just so good. I really hope they build to a decent conclusion, but honestly, I don't have much faith in it considering all the behind-the-scenes drama. We can hope for the best though, right? I'm going to leave this one here. Be sure and give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you thought about it. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you back next week for another recap.